All right. Yes, I'm seeing it, Arif.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. If you're joining us from Facebook, my name is Aaron, and Arif, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. Thanks so much for joining us. Can't see any of you, which is a shame. Wish it was, I guess, a bit more in person, but let's make the best out of it.
All right. We will begin in a few more minutes. So if you're joining us, just feel free to make yourself at home, say hi to everyone, maybe think about the questions you have about Bitcoin, and then we will begin sharp at 3:30. So yeah, feel free to invite your friends to join this live stream, and very excited to start soon. All right, a few people have joined us. Hi Kila, hi Vijaya, hi Saidi, and hi Marlene. Thanks for joining us, and we will begin at sharp at 3:30 p.m. My name is Aaron, and Arif is in the other window, so feel free to say hi to Arif as well.
Hi guys. So we have 23 people.
Khairul Faizi, hi. Glad you can join us.
It would be great if you guys can actually just let me know or let Aaron and I know in the comments. How have you been keeping during the MCO and the CMCO and the RMCO, I guess?
Hi, Grass. I hope I got your name correctly. Sharol and Gunasegaran. I guess there'll be lots of AKPKNs today. So glad you can join us as well. And Ainani Rahim, hi. Thanks for joining us. Kila Kimi says hi, Mr. Stingy. Okay. That's my nickname, I guess. So Lynn is saying hi. Hi, Lynn Roselles. Glad you can join us. Still have a few more minutes, so this is your time. Please invite all your friends to come watch this video with us. Yeah, and if you actually have any questions right now about Bitcoin digital asset, you can actually start to write it down into the comment section below. Maybe let us know your top question about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. We always run a lot of education and awareness programs, and we have a long list of frequently asked questions. So don't be shy. Let us know your your most interesting questions, and we will answer as soon as possible. I see that Puan Fazlin has joined us. Hi, Puan Fazlin. Thank you for joining us. And Tim is here as well. Tim is saying, apa khabar, Mr. Stingy? Kabar baik. I see here a comment from Rahayu. Rahayu says, hi all. I've been working from home, and after this initial adjustment period, enjoying work from home. Yeah, it's it was quite a big adjustment, yeah, Arif, to initially start working from home. But I think everyone's adapted. All right, seeing some friends join. Sheena, Raymond. Hi guys, thanks for joining us. We will begin very shortly, so yeah, feel free to invite your friends, your colleagues, and we'll get started ASAP. Arif, perhaps you want to just stop sharing the screen for a while so we can properly introduce ourselves.
Sure, give me a second. Okay, change that.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron. Thank you for joining us today for this session called Urus Bersama Aaron and Arif, Aaron dan Arif. We have a really interesting topic today, which is about Bitcoin. But before we get into that, allow me to please introduce today's, well, I'm really the co-host at today's main speaker for today. Arif Lee is in the other channel and you can see him. Arif is our events and community lead. He has been with Luno and digital currencies for, I think, more than 1 year now, especially in the digital currencies. So he's very excited to share all the things that you need to know about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, especially how to keep yourself safe. We're very excited to have him. So Arif, perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Yes, happy to do so. So give me just a second. Oh no. Okay. Hi guys. Thanks so much for joining Aaron and I today. It's fantastic to be here. I hope all of you are safe and comfortable wherever you are. If you're in the office, if you're still at home, please stay healthy and yeah, just wash your hands, guys. Very important.
Awesome. All right. So perhaps we can get straight into the slides. Arif, would you mind sharing them again?
Yes, give me a second, Aaron. You should see the slides up now.
Yes, I am seeing the slides now. Okay. All right. So Thanks very much again, everyone, for joining us today. Today, our topic is about top things you must know about Bitcoin. Um, and I'll share with you very briefly why we wanted to talk about this. Bitcoin, digital assets, cryptocurrencies, these are things that are still very confusing actually for a lot of people. But the worst thing really about things like this is many people are actually taking advantage. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of sort of this scheme cepat kaya, and there's all kinds of even like pyramid schemes. They're targeting people and they're using the name of digital assets and cryptocurrency. So in the spirit of really wanting to raise awareness and education and really want to protect Malaysians, especially investors, we thought that it would be really interesting if we can just share our learnings and our knowledge about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. So yeah, Arif, can you move on next? So before I get too deep into cryptocurrencies, just wanted to share a little bit about AKPK. AKPK is I guess you can call it the organizer of this session today. They very kindly invited Arif and I to speak today. Now, AKPK, if you do not know, is actually the debt management agency of Malaysia. So any people who have trouble with credit or anything with their loans, if they have difficulty, AKPK is actually the government agency that helps Malaysians to help with their finances. Now, AKPK has several services. If you see on the left, they have financial education. So this is one of the, I guess you can call it one of the programs that you see, such as today. We are doing financial awareness talk. They also have financial counseling sessions. So if you need some advice, you need some detailed counseling regarding your own finances, AKPK actually provides that. That's the green one in the middle. And then on the right-hand side, there's the debt management program. So if you have issues with your hutang, you have issues with your debt, you're not sure how you can pay, you can work with AKPK's counselors. And this is free, by the way. So even if you know someone, your friends, your family who have problem with hutang or loans or debt, you can refer to AKPK. Arif, will you move next? Thank you. So now, just a quick word about the Financial Education Network. This event that we have today is is organized by AKPK, and AKPK is, of course, part of the Financial Education Network. So the Prime Minister of Malaysia actually announced the Malaysia's National Strategy for Financial Literacy 2019 to 2023, and they have a list of companies that are actually very actively involved in trying to improve Malaysians' financial literacy. So if you can see at the bottom right of the screen, you can see that many agencies are involved, including Bank Negara, Suruhanjaya Security, Kementerian Pendidikan, KWSP, PIDM, PNB, and of course AKPK, which is organizing the session today. Feel free to check out Financial Education Network on their website if you want to know more about this. Arif, you can move next. Thank you. So just before we begin, just some standard disclaimers. Today's session is more about education and awareness. This is not financial advice, as in Arif and myself, we are not going to tell you when you should buy, how much you should buy, or how many percent your investment is going to grow. That one, if you want that, you can ask a licensed financial advisor. Maybe you can even speak to a licensed financial planner. What we're doing today is more for education and awareness, and most importantly is to help investor protection. Lastly, I want to say that this is not AKPK's opinion. AKPK is the organizer of today's talk, but whatever we talk today is more of our opinion and also the company that we work with, which is Luno. And I'll let Arif speak to you more about Luno and what we do. So with that, that's a pretty long introduction. Again, if you have any questions, you have any comments, please put it into the Facebook chat. We will definitely have lots of time for question and answer later. So I will try to address all your questions with Arif. So with that, I will pass the time over to Arif, and Arif will begin his presentation on the top things that you need to know about Bitcoin.
Okay, thank you so much, Aaron. So just to recap for everyone, the reason why we're here today is, to talk about the top things you must know about Bitcoin. And I think on everybody's head, this word, or at least Bitcoin, has been going around, buzzing around in all the different spaces. But yeah, I mean, here we just want to make it super simple for you guys to kind of understand what is Bitcoin all about, and also the underlying technology behind Bitcoin. So let's just get started. First and foremost, just want to mention a slight, I guess like this is a shameless plug, but Aaron and I obviously do work for Luno. And what we do at Luno is we make it safe and easy for you to buy, sell, and learn about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. We're also the first digital asset exchange that has received full approval in Malaysia, and we are regulated by the Securities Commission. And these are actually the amazing people that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. This is slightly an older photo. It's a shame that, with the MCO, we aren't able to travel as often as we can. But yeah, very privileged to work with these amazing individuals on a very day-to-day basis. So we have an international team. We're spread all across the globe. We have about 7 offices, and we serve over 40 countries across the world. And yes, so I guess today we want to look at not just Bitcoin and not just blockchain as a technology, but we also want to kind of understand the financial system that exists today. And while all of us may be familiar with it, we would actually start to realize that the existing financial system is fairly non-digital, in a sense that a lot of things has changed since the existing financial system has come into place. But with modernization, you see that the needs of people have changed, and ultimately things are changing to the point where it is currently being disrupted. And what do I mean by that? I guess when we talk about the financial system, we always talk about money. So let's first talk about the evolution of money, right? So if you think about money, I think if you remember your buku sejarah back in secondary and primary school, there are things that we covered during zaman prehistoric and stuff like that. And what are some of those things? Well, the first thing which comes to mind would be the barter system, right? So the barter system is very simple. This is basically exchanging goods for another good. Fairly straightforward, and yeah, let us know if you're not familiar with the term. But basically, this is exchanging something for something else. And the problem with the barter system is sometimes you don't have the best thing to exchange with, right? So an example would be, say I have one whole goat, right? And I want to exchange that goat for some chicken eggs, right? It doesn't really make sense for me to trade one goat for maybe a carton of chicken eggs, right? So that is one of the problems with the barter system. Next thing that kind of changed and we kind of moved towards is obviously stones, shells, and skins. So we moved away from exchanging goods or goods that we want to trade to actual physical, tangible things. And the thing about stones, shells, and skins is obviously how do you decide the value, right? It's a bit tough to decide, this stone kind of is valued as 10 cents. Let's just give an example. And this skin is worth 10 ringgit. But yeah, it's a bit tough to distinguish. So eventually we decided to move to coins, right? So physical coins, metal coins, bronze coins, silver coins. And eventually we decided that, coins didn't really make sense anymore because it was very heavy. And that allowed us or made us kind of change to use notes, right? So wang kertas or paper notes. And we used notes for the longest time. In fact, we still use notes today, and we still use coins today as well. But something changed during the financial system back in the 70s. This is thanks to Ronald Reagan in the United States. And what we did was basically we kept to the gold standard up until Reagan's announcement in the 70s. So we moved from the gold standard to non-gold standard. And eventually, obviously now, the current financial system allows central banks to essentially print money that the act of printing money does a few things, right? It can increase or decrease inflation, which is a good or bad thing depending on the circumstances. And having that as a tool is also very important for central banks. The next thing we moved into is digital money. So far everything has been tangible, has been physical, but we've moved to the digital realm in the sense that currently, if you are familiar with your banking platforms online, you would essentially be transferring ones and zeros across each bank account to your friends, your family, but you don't actually see that physical money moving. And what we are here to talk today about is actually decentralized cryptocurrency, which is totally different from what I've covered earlier. And I will actually tell you why that is different as well in the next slide. So how is it different, and what is actually Bitcoin, which actually represents much of cryptocurrencies? So Bitcoin is pretty much the most established or the world's most established cryptocurrency. So when I say cryptocurrency, what I mean is it utilizes different protocols or programming. So it's slightly different from your digital money in the sense that the way it is secured, right? So that's what makes it different from regular digital currency. The next thing is also the fact that there is no need for an intermediary. So intermediary is basically a middleman. So you don't actually need to go to one person to be able to send something to the next person. So say, for example, Aaron and I, we want to transfer things between each other. We are able to do that because we take advantage of the peer-to-peer system. Meaning, if you're familiar with basically peer-to-peer systems like uTorrent, that was one of the things that people used to use to basically transfer files back then when you did not have, cloud storage and stuff like that. You didn't have your Google Drives, you didn't have your Dropboxes, but this is essentially what a peer-to-peer system is all about, being able to interchange things between two people without an intermediary. And the next thing is actually the blockchain, right? So blockchain is the technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is basically a method of storing data. So that is what the blockchain is. Pure and simple, it is just a way to store data. We often refer it to as a ledger. Basically, if any of you studied accounting, you'll know that a ledger is a record-keeping book, right? A record-keeping location for you to basically ensure that transactions happen from one place to another, and you keep all that in one place. So that is what the blockchain is. It is pretty much a record-keeping database on the internet. And last thing is actually the unique thing about blockchain is, or at least Bitcoin's blockchain, the fact that it is immutable and decentralized. So let's break that down a bit. What immutable means is once you put something on there, you can't remove it. So that means that, I guess a good example would be, let's bring us all back to when we all sat for our secondary school final exam, right? So say your SPM and your report card, or at least your SPM slip, will never change no matter whatever you do, unless you appeal, right? But yeah, I mean, let's take that out of the equation. Let's just assume that your results are your results and you can't change that. So I can't change the fact that I might have failed at maths back when I was in Form 5. So yes, basically you are able to add to it. You cannot remove anything or erase anything on the blockchain. Next thing is it is decentralized in the sense that anyone in the world can pretty much access this information, and there's no central authority figure. So for example, if we talk about SPM and using the blockchain, there is essentially no Ministry of Education. There's no central figure. Everything is decentralized, meaning everyone can view it and all actors can interact with it. So the next thing we want to talk about is basically breaking down what decentralization is, right? Because that may be quite a complex word, but what it means is everyone basically has the same copy of data. So it is fully transparent at any point of time. You can actually access it, given that you have an internet connection. So basically, decentralization means everyone has the same copy of data, and there's no central authority figure. Basically, there's no one that holds the power over this information. And the next thing we're going to talk about is basically how does Bitcoin kind of work on a day-to-day basis at a very practical level, right? So the first example I have to give is if you were to be using a regular bank, right? So here we have two individuals. We have Alice on the left and we have Bob on the right. And basically Alice is in Malaysia and Bob is in a European country. I think this is I might be totally wrong. This might be the Netherlands flag. Please correct me in the comments if that's wrong. But yes, so let's assume you want to transfer money from far-flung countries, so totally different countries across the halfway across the world. And basically how regular banks work is you will have to actually have intermediaries between Alice's bank and Bob's bank. And what that looks like is pretty much how, so you have bank A and you have bank B. So bank A is Alice's bank and bank B is Bob's bank. So basically there will have to be an interaction between Alice's bank and Bob's bank before Bob eventually receives the money. And this usually takes time. And typically when you have a central authority figure, it means that they will have to do their part in ensuring that this particular transaction actually occurred. So usually that takes longer than if you were to compare it to Bitcoin. So this example might be 3 days. Where else, if we look at how Bitcoin transfers work, this is slightly different in the sense that you have Alice's wallet and you have basically her wallet, or she herself deciding that she wants to transfer from her wallet to Bob's wallet. So this is fairly simple. This basically requires both Alice and Bob just to set up their own Bitcoin wallet, and they would actually be able to transfer Bitcoin, in this case, to each other in less or within 60 minutes. And this can take place anywhere in the world, right? So you would not actually need to have an intermediary get involved. The only thing you need is a Bitcoin wallet, which both Alice and Bob have, and they would just need the internet, and they'd be able to transfer the Bitcoin from one place to the other. And as the slide mentions, it takes a lot faster compared to if you were to make an international bank transfer. Okay, and the important thing that we always advise people to take away when we think about Bitcoin is just these 3 things, right? So if you want to remember the whole session today, just remember these 3 things and you should be good. You should be able to explain it at least at a very simplistic manner. So what is Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is very much similar to gold in the sense that it is scarce. So that means there's limited supply and the fact that it is divisible. So you would be able to divide it up, and Bitcoin is actually a bit more divisible than gold because you have more decimal points to be able to break it down to. Next thing to remember is it works like a payment method. However, it is easier, faster, and oftentimes it's cheaper as well compared to if you use the methods that are readily available today. And the next thing to take away is similar to the internet, Bitcoin, in this example, pretty much there is no central authority figure, so no one actually controls Bitcoin and no one controls the blockchain that actually powers the transactions behind Bitcoin. And it's available for everyone. So essentially, as long as you have an internet connection, you would be able to get a Bitcoin wallet. And I will actually cover later how you can actually get some Bitcoin. So what we want to talk about now is basically what do people use Bitcoin for, right? So it's important to understand the foundations behind it. What is it exactly as a technology and how people use it? So in this particular circumstance, you can see that there are different use cases, right? So one of them is the fact that, one of them is the fact that Bitcoin has no potential for credit card fraud, and there are basically unique elements within Bitcoin that makes it more private compared to if you were to use cash or if you were to use your bank. Next thing is the fact that it is faster and cheaper, and there's usually less hassle involved. So people usually use things obviously out of convenience, right? So these are one of the uses for Bitcoin. It's a bit more convenient if you were to use it compared to cash and digital and money that is digital, in the sense that, remember, your bank accounts have those ones and zeros. Next thing is the use of it for investments. And this is actually the main use case of Bitcoin in its current form. So people usually use Bitcoin to invest as, and they diversify their portfolio with Bitcoin compared to other asset classes. Next thing is some people view it as the top performing asset class, and it has different fundamentals compared to the other asset classes which exist today. And then as we go further down, which actually talks about greed or more speculative buying, people tend to get into it for different reasons, but this is more into the making money bit. And there are different ways where people have used Bitcoin as a method of making money, so to speak. One of them is speculative buying. The next thing is active trading. So on Luno, we do have people who actively trade Bitcoin, and it may be profitable, it may be not profitable, depending on how you basically strategize and trade. And then obviously now we want to cover basically Bitcoin as an asset class, right? So we've talked about the technologies behind it. We've talked about some of the use cases, but let's talk about whether how people use it as an investment class or an investment asset. So remember I mentioned earlier in terms of diversifying your portfolio. So typically Bitcoin is viewed to have a low correlation with other asset classes. So when I say correlation, what that means is there are less similarities or less possibilities for Bitcoin to act the same way in terms of positive or negative returns versus other asset classes. So some of the asset classes you can see on the presentation now. So some of them are the S&P 500, which is actually a stock index in the United States. Then you have United States bonds, you have gold, you have United States real estate, oil, emerging market currencies, which obviously include the ringgit. So don't be too bothered in terms of the graph, but what I'm trying to say is pretty much how Bitcoin usually acts differently or performs differently versus the existing asset classes. And the next thing we want to talk about is there might be a potential for high returns. So based on the need to greed index that I showed earlier, you have people who are investing in Bitcoin or doing speculative buying. So they assume that if I bought Bitcoin back in 2011, in 2020, the price would be totally different. It would be, you increase maybe 10-fold, 20-fold, 30-fold. But yes, so some people basically use or view Bitcoin as a speculative asset. And one of the ways is to invest in it. So there may be potential of high returns, but you have to keep in mind, as you can see in the graph, it depends when you buy and when you eventually sell, right? So say, for example, if I would have bought Bitcoin at the peak in 2018, I would still be down and my investments would pose me a negative returns. Whereas if I bought in, say, maybe the beginning of 2019, currently I would be up and there would be some positive returns. So yeah, it's always important, as well as when did you actually go into the market if you do decide to be a person who invests in Bitcoin. So an important thing to note that everyone should be aware of is the fact that when it comes to Bitcoin, the price is determined by supply and demand, in the sense that this is very much similar to the stock market. And What I mean by this is it's important to note that if you are familiar with Bitcoin, or if you just did a quick Google search, the price of Bitcoin to ringgit or the price of Bitcoin to US dollars, you will see a price that is shown on Google. However, there's actually a small disclaimer under that price that shows that that price is plugged from Coinbase. So Coinbase is actually an exchange based in the United States. And Google basically uses Coinbase's price to show everyone what Bitcoin's price is. But you would realize that if you would actually go on another exchange, say for example, you go on Luno's exchange, the price will be different, because that is determined by the number of people that are basically buying, selling, and trading their Bitcoin on the exchange. So the people who are participating in the market are the people that actually decide the price of Bitcoin on a particular exchange. Next thing we want to talk about is, I think something that might be on everyone's mind, are cryptocurrencies legal in Malaysia? So it would be very unfortunate if it would be illegal, but and then AKPK would have us on. But just to let everyone know, super positive, cryptocurrencies are legal in Malaysia, and it's actually governed by two different parties. So one of them is Bank Negara Malaysia, which is our central bank, and we actually report to them as a reporting institution under the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing Policy for digital currencies. So if you want, you can look it up, feel free to do so, but it's fairly technical, and yeah, you don't really need to do that. The next thing is we are actually governed by the Securities Commission. So the Securities Commission, or the Suruhanjaya Security Malaysia, is basically the statutory body that looks after and ensures that Malaysia, the digital asset exchanges in Malaysia are basically regulated, and we are accountable towards you as investors. So if you want to look it up, feel free to do so. It's under the Capital Markets and Services Prescription of the Security, Digital Currencies and Digital Tokens, Order 2019. And just to kind of further legitimize everything, you can do a quick Google search. You'll see that Luno, in this case, was one of the first digital asset exchanges to be fully regulated in Malaysia. So this was back in 2019 of October. And I guess what Aaron mentioned earlier, which is very important to note, is we should always be aware of the regulated exchanges and the non-regulated exchanges. Reason being is because when it comes to Bitcoin, there are always, there are always irresponsible people out there who essentially want to scam you to put your money towards something which is very similar to a get-rich-quick scheme. And we've seen this many times. We've heard specific cases that the SC has told us about as well. So please, these are just some tips from us. Always do your own research. And if you're not too familiar with, cryptocurrencies or Bitcoins or digital assets, always use a regulated digital asset exchange. So other than Luno, there are two more. So make sure that you use only these three regulated digital asset exchanges, because there may be people out there that basically want to scam you out of your money. Third thing is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't true. I think that usually happens, and we kind of just need to be aware of it to avoid it happening, and basically ensure that we don't lose all our money, right? And the next thing is essentially, how can you get started? So, we've talked about what is the technology behind it, what do people use it for, the different aspects of its value and stuff like that. But you might be asking, how can you get your hands on Bitcoin? And I did mention that I would kind of cover that. So the first way that you can actually obtain Bitcoin is actually by receiving it. So say, for example, if I'm feeling very generous, I could essentially send you Bitcoin, or I could send Aaron Bitcoin for his birthday, which was quite recently. The next thing is you can actually buy it. So on a regulated digital asset exchange like Luno, you could essentially top up your e-wallet with ringgit and buy cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin on the platform. And the third method is actually by mining it. And mining Bitcoin is actually very complex. It takes a lot of computing power and is usually quite difficult to do. But yeah, if you're interested in doing that, feel free to do so. Just make sure you pay your electricity bills, because TNB, there was a case, I think last year, where there were people who were mining Bitcoin and they were stealing electricity. So this happens all around the world because cryptocurrencies, or basically the mining machines that mine Bitcoin, it takes a lot of energy and it usually costs a lot of money. So what people do is they prefer to, I guess, steal energy. So if you want to mine, just make sure that you pay your electricity bills. If not, TNB will come after you. And okay, so that is basically the overall of how you can actually get your hands on some Bitcoin. But if you are using the second method, which is actually buying it, you can do so by doing these 4 easy steps. So first thing is, please sign up at only a regulated exchange. Next thing, fairly simple, is you will need to verify your identity. So if any one of you are already using e-wallets like Boost, GrabPay, Fave, and Touch and Go, you'll be familiar that you would actually have to verify your identity, which includes you actually taking a photo of either your My Card or your driver's license, and then as well as just taking a self-portrait or a selfie of your face. Next thing is you essentially need to deposit money into your wallet, and basically this acts as an e-wallet for you to store your ringgit on the particular digital asset exchange. Another thing, and the last thing, after you've already deposited money into your wallet, is actually you can just buy Bitcoin through the digital asset exchange. So depending on which digital asset exchange you do that on, the steps will vary. So feel free to look up the different digital asset exchanges and give it a go yourself. So I just want to show you what the Luno app actually looks like in its current form. And the good thing about something that I realized, that what we do at Luno is we actually ensure or basically advocate that people are informed, in the sense that you would have to, or we would prefer you to look up our explore section, which is the tab, which is the image on the right. And you can see here that actually we talk a lot about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And we also want to ensure that the masses are educated and are knowledgeable in terms of what are digital currencies. So if you're not actually looking into investing just yet, feel free to just take a look, and then you can learn a thing or two in terms of digital currencies. And why is this important, right? So I would say Bitcoin currently is still very, very, very new. It was created in 2009 and it's only been 11 years. It's only been around for 11 years. But I think the landscape that will change eventually, fingers crossed, is the existing financial system. So we hope that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin can help reimagine the financial system and make changes to the existing system, which might be a little backdated and require some updates, right? So decentralized cryptocurrencies allow us, or we hope that it will actually upgrade the world to a better financial system. One of the reasons is because money is essentially cheaper to transfer. Next thing is the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, it'll be faster and safer to actually transact across borders. So it won't take too much time. And because you have blockchain powering the transactions, it should be safer. Next thing is because it's decentralized and because you can see it on the internet, it is transparent, yet it has private elements, some elements of privacy. Next thing is the fact that it is controllable and programmable. What I mean by this is because essentially Bitcoin is powered by the blockchain. the blockchain actually has developers who decide as a consensus. So basically all of them have to agree that this is the direction that we should go for, or the Bitcoin blockchain should move towards. So yes, so you may be able to make minor changes that is dependent on whether they are all agreeable that we should do so as basically the blockchain developers. And next thing is the fact that the transparency element allows us to ensure that there's open and equal access for everyone. So you'll be able to actually own Bitcoin insofar that you have internet access and you have a Bitcoin wallet. So that's fairly simple. I think I've covered mostly everything today, and I haven't actually taken a look at the chat box yet. So I will actually just pass it back to Aaron, and he will actually run us through the questions that you guys have asked.
Right. Thanks a lot, Arif, for your sharing. So great on the time management. We have plenty of time for question and answer. Already have a lot of questions coming in. So let me just share you the first question. Yeah? The first question is, let me see. The first question is by Mr. Park Kin Cheong. Decentralization and accessible to everyone sounds kinda no privacy and scary. So Arif, maybe you can explain a little bit more on why even in a decentralized world, people can still be safe and have privacy.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you, Mr. Park Kin Cheong for the question. So let me just make sure I'm not muted. Aaron, am I muted?
No, we can hear you. Very good.
Yeah, so in terms of the question, so yes, it might be transparent and it might be decentralized, but the privacy element that I mentioned earlier is the fact that, so I would compare it to having a unique number, right? So this unique number basically can be represented by your bank account. So say, for example, I have a bank account number, and that number can be posted anywhere, right? Mr. Kin Cheong, but you actually wouldn't know that that bank account number belongs to me. So Bitcoin, in terms of how you identify a wallet, is similar to that. So you have a wallet address, which you could say is like a bank account number that people use. So Aaron has his bank account number, I have my bank account number, but you do not know that that bank account belongs to either of us, right? Hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Let us know if that doesn't make sense, if you have other questions. So the second question for you, Arif, Ethel Tong asks, is it true that Bitcoin, which is not centralized and regulated, is it more feasible to use for money laundering?
Okay, Ethel. So you mentioned that it is not centralized and that the fact that it's not regulated. So just to correct you there are actually countries around the world who which have begun to regulate cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And the fact that they are doing that actually proves the fact that there will be less money laundering that goes on a day-to-day basis. Just an interesting note to share, based on some research that I did. If you talk about criminal activity or illicit activity using cryptocurrencies, for 2019, I think, if I remember the numbers correctly, it was 1.9 billion US dollars that was used by 1.9 billion US dollars of Bitcoin was used by criminals to conduct illicit activities. However, important to note that if you compare that to cash, physical tangible money, in 2009, so this was a long time ago, but the United Nations, one of the subsidiaries, I can't remember which one, basically did a report, and they found that the amount of cash that actually is laundered is in the trillions in terms of US dollars. So while Bitcoin, there may be some misuse cases of it, there are things which I can talk about in terms of what makes it traceable. So it's not actually super anonymous, or it's not anonymous in the sense that even though I mentioned to Mr. Kin Chong just now, the fact that you have elements that allow it to be private, there is a way to actually track who or actually which address transferred this amount of Bitcoin from one place to the other. And law enforcement agencies have used those tools that are actually available now to actually track down people who have used Bitcoin for very negative criminal activities. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when you compare Bitcoin to cash, Bitcoin is super transparent. Yes, it is, but there are tools that you can kind of use to kind of look into who does what and where is the Bitcoin actually moving from one place to the other.
Right. Thank you. So the next question, Arif, for you. Bitcoin is divisible. So is there any limit on number of level it can further divide? Maybe you can start by sharing what is the meaning of divisible.
Yeah. So divisibility is basically the ability to divide things up and transfer things to each other in an easy way possible, right? So I would say for example, if I had a 50 ringgit note now, which I do not actually, but let's assume I have a 50 ringgit note, I would not actually be able to change physically that 50 ringgit note to 1 ringgit times 50 notes. You get what I mean? So it's hard to kind of break down that physical 50 ringgit into amounts. Whereas when you talk about Bitcoin, its divisibility is a bit more superior when it comes to gold, because Bitcoin is digital, number one. Number two is there are actually 8 decimal points to Bitcoin. And basically that would mean you will be able to divide it up to 8 decimal points. So you can actually buy 0.000000001 Bitcoin, which actually is actually the decimal point, or those decimal points are actually known as Satoshis.
Yeah, cool. So maybe for the benefit of the audience also, Arif, what is the lowest amount that, let's say someone wants to invest, what is the lowest amount that they can use to invest in Bitcoin? Because for example, some things you need like 500 ringgit, some things you need 100 ringgit. What about Bitcoin?
Okay, so when it comes to Bitcoin, at least on Luno, you can start as low as 3 ringgit, essentially. And that would mean that, you can start with a single digit in terms of your ringgit, right? It's a very low barrier to entry compared to some other investment classes.
All right. Cool. Okay, next question, Arif. Let me see. Just looking through the comments. Since Bitcoin is not correlated with other class of assets, how do we determine when to buy it, when to sell it, as there is no indication to show whether it's at the highest or lowest price?
Okay, so I would correct myself if I did say that there's no correlation. I said there's low correlation. So it doesn't mean that there may be a time where 2 or more asset classes, which include Bitcoin, will interact with each other and go the same direction, right? But if you're asking me when to buy, when to sell, when to invest, it's a bit tough. You put me in a tough spot because I don't have a crystal ball. If I had a crystal ball, I would be rich. I would not have to work, and that would be losing life. I would have bought Bitcoin in the early days and then just relaxed and not sold anything until now. But yeah, I mean, there are some things, there are tools that you can use to kind of consider whether it might be a better time or worse time. Some people, when it comes to investing, so this is in general in terms of investment classes, people use technical analysis, right? You have things like MACD, MACD, you have moving averages, you have candlesticks, you have RSIs and stuff like that. So these are technical tools which people believe that will enable them to better predict in terms of where the price is going. So you could use that maybe. You could also, look at fundamentals in terms of what is happening in current affairs, because sometimes when it comes to investing, people see something happen and immediately something changes, right? So an example would be currently what's happening with COVID-19. Because of COVID-19, we've seen a lot of volatility in traditional asset classes, right? We've seen the stock markets go down, go up, go down, go up. And that could be attributed to COVID-19. So as a current affairs, what's happening in the world. So you could actually look at that as well.
Right. Awesome. So there's a few questions that are coming in that are very, I guess, similar in nature. So Hakimi is asking, how about Ali Exchange? Is it similar to Luno? And then Tim is asking, there are quite a number of companies offering people to invest in Bitcoin. How do you tell the difference between scammer versus genuine investing agents? So Arif, I guess we have a bit of time, right? Maybe do you want to just quickly show everyone like the SC website where people can look at the regulated and approved exchanges for digital assets?
Yep, just give me a while. So I think just to answer that question very simply, the first thing you can do is obviously do a quick Google search, right? Use Google because Google is your friend, and basically just do a quick search of that particular party, organization, or entity that wants to sell you that Bitcoin. Next thing is you can actually refer to this website that I'm about to pull up. Give me a second.
No worries. While Arif is showing the website, just a reminder that anything in Malaysia, anything related to investing here, actually it's regulated by the Securities Commission. So that is things like stock market, bursa saham, or things like unit trust, right? All these kind of thing actually needs permission before they can be offered to customers. So yeah, Arif, back to you. Yeah, I see the website now.
Yep. So this is the website. So if you Google, I guess, Suruhanjaya Security or Securities Commission Malaysia, and then you look for lists of unauthorized websites, investment products, companies, and individuals. This is not, I guess, this is not the whole list, because obviously there are always new entities popping up, new companies, new people popping up. So this would be a good point of reference at the first glance. Another thing you could do is actually you could contact the Securities Commission directly. So there is a number here, there is a website as well, there's an email address as well, which you can actually reach out to them directly and find out from the regulators themselves whether something is legitimate, whether the person, entity, or organization is actually regulated, or they are basically an unauthorized entity.
Right. Yeah. Arif, do you mind also just scrolling to the digital assets section?
Give me a second.
Yeah. Under regulation, there's a section called guidelines and recognized markets. Yeah, under guidelines, there's a section called recognized markets. Yeah. Okay, and then there's list of registered digital asset exchanges. Yeah. So yeah, for anyone who's curious, again, this page here shows the three digital asset exchanges that are in Malaysia. Again, the recommendation is that if anyone other than the registered or regulated exchanges with the SC comes and asks you to buy, I would say please be very careful, because the government has actually approved several companies already. So it's very high risk if you were to go with somebody else. All right. So yeah, let me move back to the questions here, Arif. Okay, a very interesting question here. Mr. Park again is asking, why is mining for Bitcoin consuming so much electricity?
Okay, that's a great question. So, Mr. Park, just to let you know, mining uses a lot of resources because it requires a high amount of computing power, and the machines that actually are run as mining machines cost a lot of money. So you would actually, it doesn't really make sense for a regular person to decide to buy a mining device and then start mining because there are basically mining farms. So farms, let's imagine, a huge warehouse, and basically that warehouse is filled with machines that are meant to mine Bitcoin, right? And it's actually very hard for that particular machine to actually mine Bitcoin because it requires the machine to actually solve a very complicated cryptographic function. So basically, it's a math equation. So that machine is basically fighting against all the other machines in the world, and they can be in the thousands, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, there should be at least 5 or 6 figures of actual tangible mining machines. And basically all of them are competing against each other to basically mine the next block, right, in that particular blockchain. So that is how they get rewarded, by them mining the block. And yeah, so it costs a lot of money. It is very resource extensive. You would actually lose out unless you have a huge amount of capital to be able to buy many mining machines to the people who have been doing it for the longest time and have a lot of capital.
So, thanks, Arif. So, moving into the few final questions. Again, if you have a question, now's your last chance to ask us. We are closing soon. But here, let's answer this question by Mr. Gunasegaran first. Mr. Gunasegaran is saying, is there any commission charge in every buying and selling transaction? So, Arif, maybe you can share some of the typical charges in a regulated digital asset exchange.
Okay, so I guess the most common ones would be how much it costs for you to transact, right? So when I say transact, means to buy Bitcoin using your ringgit Malaysia, right? So for you to buy Bitcoin, that is usually one charge that the digital asset exchanges charge you. Another charge which you should familiarize yourself with would be whether we charge you to actually sell your cryptocurrencies, to sell your Bitcoin, whether there's a charge there. Next thing is always take note whether there's any cost in terms of depositing your ringgit, which, as far as I know, the 3 digital asset exchanges, I don't think any of them charges for you to deposit ringgit into your e-wallet on your digital asset exchange. And I guess another thing would be to withdraw your ringgit in your e-wallet back to your bank account. Those are the typical charges you should look at. If you're a bit more sophisticated and you want to use an exchange, some things you might have to familiarize yourself would be is what is maker and taker. Those terminologies are very important because typically exchanges use those terms to basically charge a fee, right? I won't get into too much detail. You can actually just Google what is maker-taker fees. And this is similar to any other cryptocurrency exchange out there. What else am I forgetting? I guess also another thing would be the cost to transfer cryptocurrencies from wallet to wallet. So this actually is not decided by an exchange. This is decided by the blockchain. So there may be different times of the day and different times of the month where it's cheaper and more expensive to basically transfer cryptocurrencies from, say, for example, your wallet to someone's wallet that is in a total different country, say in Europe or Africa or something like that. So that's also another thing you might need to take note of. I think those are the main ones that come to mind. Yeah.
So cool. I think we have addressed most of the questions already, Arif. But I think let's just take this final few minutes just to share our closing remarks. From my perspective, right, just to let everyone know, cryptocurrency is not a simple topic. Yeah. Even like for myself, I've been in cryptocurrency for 4 years now, working full time in cryptocurrency for 2 years. Every day I still learn something new. So if you're feeling confused, you're not sure what we spoke about today, understand that it is very natural. This kind of new technology takes time to learn. So I do encourage you, if you're interested, you can check out, just Google online Bitcoin. There's so many articles now. You can check out our website if you want to learn more about Duno and Bitcoin in a very simple way. But yeah, I would please encourage you. And please, if you are interested to invest, please make sure that you only do it with the regulated exchange, like we show on the website earlier, because other investment platforms are not approved by SC and is viewed as a high risk thing. So that's all from my end. And thank you all for joining. I will pass the time to Arif for his closing remarks.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Aaron mentioned, just in general, always be an informed investor. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Only start with the amount of money that you are comfortable with. Don't overextend yourself. Obviously, now with COVID-19, the financial situation of many people might be, not so great compared to the rest of us. So be smart. Don't rush into things. And yeah, always make sure that you do your best, that you understand what's the risk involved, and find out what's available before you jump in. Yeah, thanks guys. It was really great to be here with you today. I wish we could do it physically, but yeah, got to respect the MCO or the CMCO or the RCMCO, whatever abbreviation it is now. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. You can also ask AKPK. They are happy to kind of run you through anything that is involving your investments or how to restructure your debt and stuff like that. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AKPK, for organizing, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.
See you guys. Bye.